Well, now we're going to be looking at something called dimensional analysis. And dimensional analysis is a fancy term for when we are converting from one unit of measurement to another. And we will set up conversion ratios. So as an illustration, let's just kind of start with something easy. Well, first thing we want to do, let me do it like this. When we set up our conversion ratio is going to be based on what we're converting to, what unit of measurement we're converting to over what converting from. And that's the basic format. We'll, in this particular problem that we're going to work here in a moment, we'll see a little bit of a variation on that, but I'll cover that when we get there. And this is something that you'll use, and it comes up in math quite a bit in your math classes, but it also is going to come up quite a bit in your science classes. So these are good things to know. So let's just kind of start with something easy. Let's say I wanted to know how many yards, if I wanted to re-express, let me put it this way, 6 feet into yards. Well, you probably already know that 6 feet is 2 yards. But if I were going to set that up as a conversion ratio, I would have 6 feet times, now, what am I converting to? I'm converting to yards over, and what am I converting from? I'm converting from feet. So then I need to ask myself, how many feet is in 1 yard? Well, we know that 1 yard and 3 feet are equivalent to each other. So if I'm converting 6 feet into yards, I would set up 6 feet times 1 yard over 3 feet. And I could do a little bit of cross cancellation here. Those 3 will go into 6 2 times, and then I just multiply, and this is the same as 6 over 1, by the way. Numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator, and 6 feet then is in fact 2 yards. And if you'll notice, my feet here also cancel out, and so I'm just left with 1 unit of measurement, 2 yards. I could do the same thing. Let's see how many seconds is in 1 minute. Well, let's see. If I set up, let's say I want to know how many. Well, let's change, and we'll change that. How many minutes is 120 seconds? And again, you probably instantly know what that is. That's 2 minutes, because 1 minute has 60 seconds. And if I were to use that kind of conversion ratio, my seconds are going to cancel. I'm going to be left with a unit of measurement of minutes, and 60 will go into 120 2 times. And then it's simply 2 times 1, or what we already know intuitively, 120 seconds is equal to 2 minutes. So we're setting it up, what we're converting to over what are we converting from. Now let's look at this problem we got here. A car travels a distance of 100 feet in 2.8 seconds. What is the velocity of the car in miles per hour? And so we're asked to determine velocity. Now you may remember that velocity equals the rate, or the distance, I should say, distance over time. How far do we go in a certain amount of time? And that gives us a formula for velocity. Now, we got to do miles per hour, and we're given something in feet per second. And so in this particular problem, we've got two conversions we're going to have to do. We got to convert feet into miles, and we got to convert seconds into hours. Now, if any of you have ever know anything about track, most of the we don't have one here at Northwood, but if you go to a lot of the schools, they will have a track that goes around a football field, and that track is 440 yards, and that is a quarter of a mile. In other words, if I'm going to run a mile, I'm going to have to run that track 4 times. Well, let's see. Then how many yards is in a mile? Well, I could take 440 times 4, and there's 1,760 yards in a mile. But my unit of measurement here that I got to convert is in feet. Well, we already know that there's 3 feet in a yard. So if there's 1,760 yards in a mile, I could take 1,760 times 3, and there are 5,280 feet. That equals 1 mile. All right. Now, let's think about seconds and hours. So how many seconds are in a minute? Well, there's 60 seconds. That equals 1 minute. And how many minutes are in an hour? Well, 60 minutes equals 1 hour. And if I want to find out how many seconds are in an hour, well, that's 60 times 60. In other words, if there's 60 seconds in 1 minute and there's 60 minutes in 1 hour, then there must be 3,600 seconds in equals 1 minute. Running out of room a little bit here. So 5,280 feet equals 1 mile, 3,600 seconds equals 1 minute. So we got some basic information as to how to set up our conversion ratio to determine if a car travels 100 feet in 2.8 seconds, what's the velocity or speed of that car in miles per hour. And we're going to go to the next slide, and we're going to set this up and do the computation. We're going to convert 100 feet in 2.8 seconds to miles per hour. All right, so we were told then we got 100 feet, car traveled 100 feet in 2.8 seconds. And it's important that I write my unit of measurements here. I'm doing dimensional analysis or unit conversion. All right, so let's think about now. Okay, we determined it was 5,280 feet in 1 mile. And we're wanting to convert these feet into miles. So what are we converting to? We're converting to miles. And so 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. And that is, in fact, a ratio that would equal 1. 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. Now, I got to convert these seconds, and this is where this takes a little bit of a variation on what I'm talking about. What am I converting from over what I'm converting to over what I'm converting from? Because my seconds down here, my 2.8 seconds is in the denominator, and I'm wanting these unit of measurements to cancel, where I'm left with just miles per hour. But we said that there were 3,600 seconds in 1 hour. And so there's my second conversion ratio. And so let's look at our units here. My feet can cancel. right? And my seconds can cancel. And I'm going to be left with miles per hour. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to multiply all of this across, numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So I got 100 times 1, well, that's 1. And then I've got 100 times 3,600. Let's see. Could just add 2 zeros to that. So that's 360,000. All right. And that's going to be over 2.8 times 5,280. Let's see. 2.8 times 5,280. That equals 14,784 times 1 hour. So it's 14,784. And to finish this off into miles per hour, I'm going to divide 360,000 by 14,784. Let's see what we get there. Let's see, let's convert that to a decimal. And it said, I believe the problem said to round it to the nearest whole number. I come up with 24.3506. Or we can say approximately 24. And then what's our unit of measurements? Miles per hour. So a car traveling 100 feet in 2.8 seconds is equivalent to approximately 24 miles per hour. What are we converting to over what we're converting from? That's if our unit is in the numerator. If our unit of measurement's in the denominator, like we see with this seconds, and it's what am I converting from over what am I converting to? Got to have some patience to do this. Patience is a real virtue.